Okay, I'm back. I hope that I'm visible. I believe that I am. Working out the kinks, Ah. So, David Stearns. All right, anyway, so David Stearns met the media yesterday, right? And as I started to say before, I don't know what happened with that little thing, whatever. We'll figure that out. Just plow through it. So there's really two paths here, right? I think we're good to go. I'm seeing comments popping up. I think we're good. Let me pop the glasses on. Yep, we're back. We're ready to go. All right. This goddamn thing, Jesus. All right. So when you are somebody like David Stearns, who is in the very unique position of actually being a Mets fan, right? You don't, I can't tell you how important that press conference was yesterday. And I actually think that he nailed it. I really do. I think he did a really good job. I think there was only one script that he could follow, and that was the script of transparency and just, coming clean, being forthright. Here's what we're thinking. Here's what we're doing. Now, the interesting thing about David Stearns, and I hear, my buddy Joe B railing on, oh, the boy genius, oh, the boy wonder. Like Joe is crushing him. And many of you, by the way, in the court of public opinion, have absolutely already crushed Stearns on the scoreboard. But see, the problem with that, guys, and to me, it's very easy to dissect. And don't take this the wrong way, but it's very easy for me to tell you, at least in the middle of January, why you're wrong. And the reason why you're wrong is very simple because you're grading his moves on emotion and you're not grading his moves on actual results, which obviously, I get it. Sometimes it's cathartic, and I'm not saying that I've never done it either, but it's really generally not the right way to go. I mean, the right way to go is to have an initial reaction, eventually move on, cross the bridge to, saneville, like get back to being sane, and then start reacting to what you're seeing here. Now, are you going to react to seeing Lindor, Soto, and Tucker 1, 2, 3 in the order? We'll find out. I mean, the Mets are aggressively going after him. I'll get back to that in a minute. But really, David Stearns is pretty much one of one in this regard that he's from a Mets family. He's a Mets fan. He's one of us. And now he completely stripped away the guts of the team, many of the players you absolutely loved. I mean, yeah, we can sit here and quibble, as we have, by the way, as we've come to these determinations, like why I said about a year and a half ago on The Fan, I would not marry Pete long term. I didn't love the Nimmo deal. And Diaz, I would have kept. That's different. I think they botched that one financially. But the other things that you've reacted to, I get it. Like those are the players that you've been, those are the jerseys under the Christmas trees. Those are the jerseys on birthdays, and those are the jerseys that you and the kids rock when you go into Citi Field to watch the Mets play. So there's a real vacancy there in terms of the emotion, at least the emotional connection to the team. And I get that for now. But the one thing that I've learned, right, is that, and I don't know when I learned this, it wasn't yesterday, and it certainly wasn't 20 years ago. So I don't know, pick a time in between then, maybe 10 years, split the difference. Maybe 10 years ago. I started to learn, right, that it's less about, judging you on what you say and more judging you on what you do. Think about, I'll give you an example, right? Think about, and I'm really guilty of this. Think about all the Jet press conferences over the years, like Robert Saleh. Oh my God, look at that guy. Look at him up there at the press conference. We got the right coach. Look, that's a football coach. That's the guy. That's the dude. Nah, he wasn't. And by the way, reasons other than just his inability to maybe, run the building as a rookie head coach, deal with Aaron Rodgers, deal with the injuries, whatever. What he projected at the press conference was really night and day from the results that he actually has on his coaching resume pertaining to a stint here with the Jets. So we all kind of react to that. When the Knicks brought in Phil Jackson years ago as an executive, now a lot of us were like, all right, you're bringing him in here to do a job that he's never done before. So the name Phil Jackson sounds fantastic. It really does. It's incredibly appealing. But all right, is he going to be able to do the job? But I remember I suspended the emotion there, or at least the pragmatic part of the evaluation of Phil Jackson. And I remember what I was saying on the air. I was doing national at that point with Tiki. And I remember saying, all right, I know he's not coming to coach this team, but I will at least take a chance on somebody that has that kind of success with, by the way, as a player, playing under Red Holtzman, playing with Clyde Frazier, playing with Willis Reed, playing with Bradley, playing with DeBusschere. Like, I'd have to think that Phil Jackson is fairly qualified to build out a pathetic Knicks roster coming from the Bulls, coming from the Lakers, and it didn't work out. So I just kind of reset some of those things because sometimes your instincts initially can betray you. Like what we see visually, what we hear, like aesthetically, it provides us almost a false hope, and we overreact positively. But the converse is kind of, I think, where we are right now with David Stearns, and that is an over the top reaction to his inability to do his job. And you could say it as loud as you want. Again, you could just get on and you can rail away like Joe B does. Boy wonder this, boy wonder that, this guy's this. And everybody, it's a little cathartic because I get it. It does make you feel a little bit better, but it doesn't prove anything, number one. And it certainly does not create a template that is going to necessarily be congruent with whatever he does moving forward. Like, two things could be true. You could be completely pissed at David Stearns for letting Nimmo, and more Pete than Nimmo, but both of them together, that is a big chunk of the heart of the Mets fan. I get that. So you can juggle that fandom's vitriol while also, if you're capable of doing this, having an open mind and saying, you know what? But maybe there is a better way to build this out, and I'm going to give them a chance. And as I give them a chance and we lay back and watch what they're going to do, whether it's $51 million a year for 3 or 4 years for Tucker, whether it's trading for Peralta, you already got Simeon, whatever the next couple of moves, the sequence of moves might be, just because you are deeming him and labeling him a failure now does not mean that that's going to be the case. But understand this, like, there's going to be, again, there's no middle road for this guy. He's either going to be the revered hero or the reviled villain. And it's going to be complete opposite ends of the spectrum, because now, as he builds this thing out, if the Mets don't win, and he said this yesterday, that his goal, and he used the term the next 5 years, and that's something that I know that the Met fans chasing. Yeah, you want the championship, first time since 86, blah, blah, blah. But you really want a sustained run. And to me, that's in baseball, that's about a half a decade. In basketball, maybe it's a little bit more if you have guys like Curry in their prime, or LeBron, or Bird and Magic. Baseball, I'd probably say about a half a decade. Football, if you've got a young superstar quarterback on that early contract, maybe it's more like 5, 6, 7 years. Like, take Josh Allen. He might not ever win a championship, and I actually hope he does. But either way, he's going to be in the mix for closer to 10 years than 5 years. So I think there's a lot of variables. I think every sport's very different. But what you don't want as a Met fan is basically what you've gotten. And it's up and it's down. And it's up and it's down. Then it's up, then it's down. Up, tick, up. Like, you can't win that way. And if you do win, it's going to be an outlier. And to be an outlier champion, which is the ultimate goal, you need a whole hell of a lot to right to go for you. To go right for you, I should say. And I think that's short-sighted. I think that's holding on to something that's not tangible, and that is emotion. And I am of a firm belief. Now, also, I'm listen, I also get it. I'm taking away the emotion because I'm not a Mets fan, but I can still relate to it. You are packaging your anger and your distaste for the direction of the Mets because you lost a couple of guys that you love, and you are associating that on some level, even if it's in the deepest recesses of your mind and you don't even know that you're doing this. What you're really doing is not giving a man a chance that every one of you wanted to come here from Milwaukee. I remember interviewing Stearns when he was with the Brewers on the national show with Tiki and asking him about the Mets. Hey, you're a New York guy down the road. And of course, he talked around it because he was under contract for another team. But David Stearns' name has been on your Mets radar for what? 3, 4. He's already been here a couple of years, at least 2 years before that. That young, ascending, brilliant, modern executive. And now you have him. And now you're pushing back on the moves that he's making. And oh, yeah, by the way, which is you're right. But oh, yeah, by the way, the moves that you're pushing back on were not working. So to me, like, that's the height of fandom stupidity. And I don't mean that as harsh as it sounds, right? I'm not calling you stupid. But to me, that is just, it's illogical. It really is. You want somebody here. You know how Milwaukee operates. I'm not talking about the payroll, but how they build the team. If you want, and listen, if you just watch the Mets and maybe you just watch the Brewers when they play the Mets, well, maybe you're not quite, or you weren't as aware of how they built their team out. A lot of guys that could run, a lot of guys that could field, a lot of guys that put bat to ball. There's not too many Pete Alonsos in the Milwaukee Brewer lineup. There's just not. Like, you've got to have multiple tools to be a Brewer. That's how now, it has not yet won them a championship, but the hope here for you as a Met fan is that philosophy coupled with Cohen's checkbook will be enough to eventually elevate you to a championship. And you just got to stick by that. I'm not saying he can't straddle that emotional fence and get you little zings in there on Stearns, but to not have at least a little bit of an open mind for somebody that everybody, even me, as a non-Met fan, I'm like, this guy would be great for the Mets. I mean, I identified that years ago. That's why I asked him the question when I had him on the show. So he had two choices yesterday, really. He could go up there and he can deflect, which would have made it worse because you're not fooling anybody at this point. Everybody knows what went down. Everybody knows who's gone. Everybody knows where we're at. Or you could have followed the script that he did, which I think was a PR home run. Like, it didn't make anything go away. It didn't change anything. Pete's gone. Diaz is gone. Nimmo's gone. Tucker's not here yet. A frontline pitcher's not here yet. But what it did do, and this is so important in New York, like, if you can do this one thing I'm about to tell you, you're going to make your life so much easier. And that is to minimize noise. Just quell the reaction. And that's one reason I also think he's a good manager. But that's one of the reasons why I always support Aaron Boone. Because when you're the Yankees manager, right, just to throw them in here for a minute, and, you're meeting the media before the game, after the game, no championship since 2009, the shadow of George, the vitriol in a lot of ways that has been thrown toward Cashman, and a lot of it's been justified, to be fair, and I've said a lot of it, and I agree with a lot of it, maybe not all of it, but a lot of it. Like, there's a lot of Yankee noise, right? And Aaron Boone, every year, excuse me, is able to really just push forward, do his job. You might not win the World Series, but you're not dealing with the circus stuff. It's not like you never see a press conference with Aaron Boone morph into something really other than baseball. He is so good at getting it back on point. And by the way, in that regard, so is Brian Cashman, if you really think about it. So I think that yesterday was, while it was a fairly basic script, just be transparent, own what you've done, tell everybody what you want to do coming up, keep it moving, say goodbye, go finish the deals with Tucker, whatever else you're going to do, and just get back on the train. And that's what he did. But if he would have been defensive, or if he would have been evasive, or if he would have been less than honest, like, that would have been so much more detrimental. So I get it. You're not happy. You're not feeling it. Understood. But I think that you guys need to chill a little bit here, because nothing's going to be won tonight. Nothing's going to be won tomorrow. And really, that's all there is to it. I mean, honestly here, I look at this. The noise is temporary. And as much as you guys love Pete, and I get it, and as much as you love Nimmo, are you going to really miss Pete if you have Tucker and you're rolling out 1 Lindor, 2 Soto, 3 Tucker, 4, 5, 6, whatever. And and there's I'm just not going to go through the whole Mets lineup right now, but I would think at that point, I would say I was going to say arguably, but maybe even inarguably, on paper, the best top 3 hitters in baseball. You can have a problem with that? I mean, you shouldn't. And if you had Pete, you wouldn't have Tucker. Who's the better player? Come on, man. I know Tucker's not going to hit 40 home runs, and he doesn't need to. Boy, oh boy, if they land him, man. I mean, and really, isn't that the appeal when you think about, like, Steve Cohen? Isn't that really the appeal, guys? Because the appeal was to change the perception of the Mets. And I dubbed it the Mets tax early on, like with Soto and some other players, maybe even Montas at $16 million a year for 32 total, which was idiotic. But there's going to be a Mets tax. Like, until the Mets reach the level of certainly the Dodgers, but consistently the Yankees, the Phillies. I know the Braves had a down year with injuries, but the Braves, Toronto the next couple of years, and obviously last year, almost won the World Series. Until they get to that level, especially with the Yankees on the other side of town, and you can say whatever you want about the Yankees, never win anymore, don't operate the same way, and those things are true until proven otherwise. The Yankee shadow, to a certain extent, is always going to obscure some of the Mets shine. It just is. Now, you might protest this next statement. I myself really don't think that no matter what the Mets do, as long as the Yankees are operating on a functional level, I don't think that the Mets shine will ever diminish the Yankees shine. But I do think that Yankees aura, which again and I don't even like that word because it goes into the whole aura and championships, and it's been too long to lean on that, which I never do. I'm talking about the grand commentary of the franchise in totality. It's the Yankees, and then it's the Mets. And the Mets are trying to do certain things to elevate themselves and to get to a point where it's not a one-off or, hey, we won 89 games unexpectedly and we were up and down all year. And, boy, we beat the Phillies and we pushed the Dodgers a couple of times and somehow we almost willed our way to a World Series out of nowhere. Like, all right, that's fun. And in real time, that's obviously exhilarating. But that's not going to cut it. Like, there's an expiration point to that. And we've already seen it because a lot of the primary pieces on that team are gone. So listen, there's two things here. There's the emotional stuff, and that is different for everybody. And then there's the baseball stuff, which is still subjective, but should not be as different as it is for everybody. I don't understand. I really don't, for the life of me, how even if you are a slanted, crazy Mets enthusiast on some level, like when you look in the mirror or you're talking to your best friend who's also a Met fan and there's no Yankee fans around and you're not calling the radio station to a Yankee host and the little jabs and all the stuff and all the games we play, the most honest point of reflection as a Mets fan, do you really think that crew was on path to a championship? Do you really think that? I mean, come on. If you do think that, you are sorely mistaken. So again, emotional stuff here because there's so many layers to it. So I just put that in the side of the room for a minute. The baseball stuff, I'm totally with Stearns. And by the way, I was saying this, and if you really think about outside of Carl Banks, one of the earliest, huge stories around BT and Sal from our show, emanating from our show, was when Sal was talking about, this is going back 2 years ago, about the core of the team and maybe some locker room dynamics, and everybody jumped on him, jumped down his throat. Hater, what are you talking about? You don't know what you're saying. No way. Was he right? Was he right? He was absolutely right. And then, and I don't espouse things that I don't know. Now, when he does his SNY stuff, he's obviously around, whether it's Terry Collins, Duquette, guys who are connected to the team. So he's getting different information on that than I was. But what I do know is baseball. And I know I can look at a player and say, I don't think that guy's going to age too well. So while you were getting on Sal for what he was saying about the dynamics of the chemistry, and then you started getting on me for saying, I'm not giving Pete 5, 6, 7 years. This is going back a couple of years ago. So a couple of years ago, that was at the central, like the beginning. That was the origin of really beginning to dive deeply into the future of the Mets, which as a show, we did better than anybody, period. It wasn't even close. We nailed it, right? And you guys didn't like that. And that's okay. We understood that. Now I'm just speaking for myself again. I understand that. You don't think I understand that? You don't think I've been in that situation with certain players and certain teams? Hell yeah. But it doesn't mean that those emotions will serve you right. So when David Stearns is up there, the genius, the boy wonder, when he's up there yesterday and everybody's clicking away and pecking away on X, Stearns, you bum, Stearns, you geek, Stearns, you suck. Understand this. The man did the right thing. Actually, plural. He did the right things. All right. And now he's in the process of building out the team that he envisioned building when he first took the job. You see, here was the complex part of him coming to the Mets. So he inherited a lot. And I don't mean, this is not a shade statement because he's a really good player, but you inherit Lindor and that big contract. And by the way, most GMs, especially a couple of years ago when he was even younger, you'd have no problem absorbing that because Lindor is a really good, really, really good player, right? A little inconsistent for my taste. I've always said that, a little up and down, whatever, but a really, really good shortstop. All right. But I think that when he came here, he did the smart thing. Rather than going like, damn, I need this, I need that, I need this, I need that, I got to get this guy, I got to get that guy. And rather try to make that massive first impression, like Isaiah did with the Knicks, never worked. He did the smart thing. You know what that's called? It's called laying out. He was laying out and he was watching and he was observing both from a baseball point of view and a chemistry point of view. The baseball stuff never worked out well enough, right? And the chemistry stuff obviously was an impetus for change. Remember what Tommy Pham said a couple of years ago? This was a really interesting statement. This is going back at least 2 years ago when he said something along the lines of, I've never seen a team work like not put the work in or a less professional group, something like that. It was a real shot at the professionalism of the Mets. Now, I don't know, is it up to the rookies and the first, second-year players, third-year players to set that template, or is that up to the veterans? That's up to the veterans. I mean, let's face it. Let's say if Spencer Jones makes the team out of spring trade, which I don't think he will, but if he does, it'd be a nice surprise, right? And he's on the team opening day for the Yankees. Spencer Jones is not setting the tone. Aaron Judge is. John Cortland, I mean, listen, I much as I want Stanton to be gone because it's just a burdensome, it's an issue, as we all know, with certain things, the defense, the running, the contract. At least you know that Giancarlo Stanton is revered, and he is a voice that everyone, even Judge, listens to and respects. So that's who guides these ships through the murky waters. Veterans, not young players. They're just figuring things out. They're trying to figure out how to hit a 92-mile-per-hour slider that just broke 12 inches. That looked like a fastball and darted into the other part of the batter's box. Good luck, buddy. You want that same young player to figure out how to lead a team? It's just not. It can't happen. There's no way. Again, illogical. So you can rail on Stearns. I think it's premature. Or at least let me say this. I think the railing should be over by now. I have no problem granting you that grieving period. Pete's gone. God, I'm going to miss Pete. My God, polar bear. You start looking at the iPhone. I remember when I took little Joey to his first Mets game and he's rocking the Alonso. Little Joey's 4 and now Joey's like 9 or 10 or whatever it might be, or your daughter. Yeah, I get it. I really do. I'm a sentimental person. I love this stuff and I cherish it and I get it and I lean into it. And I've always admitted that. But there's got to be an expiration point on this. There absolutely must be. The grieving should be over. I mean, listen, these players are showing up to Port St. Lucie in a month, pitchers and catchers, right around Valentine's Day. So get over it. You got to get over it. And because he didn't make it worse yesterday, I think that should be. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just telling you what I would do. That to me is the springboard to allow yourself to mentally heal with the defections, the departures, and understand there's a better way to build a team and now try to do it. All right, let me get Charlie F 6675. Alonso and Nimmo weren't the problem last year. Their starting pitching couldn't go past 4 innings. Obviously, since July or August on, that's on Stearns, and that's why Met fans are mad. All right, Charlie, I do understand that. I get that. And you're not wrong. I mean, geez. I mean, really, you go back, even the final series with the Marlins, Clay Holmes was the only guy who pitched well. And I thought Clay Holmes was a good pickup, and I thought he pitched well. And I remember telling Sal when you guys got him, I'm like, that's going to be a good pickup for you guys. I like that for the Mets. You have to understand, like, if you're going to grade Stearns, you've got to do it on the entire scale. Year one, he threw some stuff at the wall. Manaea, wow. All right, they changed his windup, or he changed it. Last 18 starts, he was an ace. Manaea delivered. You pieced a rotation together that was, honestly pretty good. I mean, pretty viable enough to get to the playoffs, win around, and push the. I even know the Dodgers scored a lot of runs most of those games, but I mean, listen, you were a step away from the World Series, so I understand that. But year one, largely credit based. I mean, good job, Stearns. Great start. Then you get Soto. Now that's Cohen, obviously, cutting the check there. Stearns had nothing to do with that. Let's not get it twisted. I don't even know if Stearns said anything. That's like Cohen. Let's meet the family. Let's meet Mama Soto. Let's let everybody feel good. Here's 800 gazillion trillion billion dollars. You want the suite. You want merch for the family. Done. I've got the power. Here you go. Let's leave the Bronx. Let's come to Queens. So that's not Stearns, right? But now you have to understand, even last year with the step back, why wouldn't you think that Vientos would have taken that logical step next forward, where he looked like he was their best hitter in the playoffs, the end of the year, and if he wasn't their best, he was their second best. He was phenomenal, right? So I thought that he would continue to elevate and play very well. He didn't, all right? And then he had to get a little bit more of a read on Beatty at third base, who I do like, and then McNeil's contract, he was still here. Hey, Stearns didn't sign McNeil. Stearns didn't give Nimmo 7 years. Who's got a rag arm in left field and has suddenly battled injuries. Like, that's not Stearns. It's not like Stearns has been here like Cashman's been here, and everything that is currently on the Mets roster, Stearns is responsible for. You've got to give him an ability to get rid of what he inherited that he does not like, and those things that he's maybe not sure about that he inherited. Give him a chance to evaluate it. And now, after 2 years, here we are. And the evaluation is very simple. We don't like what we had. Hence, we're moving on. Hence, we're going to build this team up in a very different way. And I think that it's the very, very smart move. So the only way that would have been worse, man, is if really he comes out there yesterday and he was cocky and he was arrogant and he was deflecting, that would have been absolutely unacceptable. And I would be roasting him like, dude, you can't go out there because that's just not going to cut it. You got to understand who you are and where you are and what you're saying. Like, the Met fan base is very emotionally fragile right now, and I understand that. And I do think this is really one of the greater points here. I do think that Stearns did not a good job. I thought he did a fantastic job of threading the needle and walking that line, and it's a tightrope. And let's face it, the tightrope that he's walking with you right now at the circus, like, there's no net below him. There's lions waiting to eat him, waiting to devour him if he slips. So I thought that he was, again, transparent. I thought he let you know about the plan. I thought he let you know that, hey, what we had wasn't good enough, and we want to build this thing out where it's not the outlier good season, or, we stumbled upon a season or two that was exciting. We want to win a championship. And if you guys can't get it through your thick heads, you weren't winning anything with Pete and Nimmo. I mean, you're just worried. I'm getting frustrated. Like, all these emotions are coming back from all the calls on the fan. And I'm just kind of going through this mental rewind, like all the people who are just lambasting and did and will and continue to do so. Man, I don't know what you're seeing. Like, when I see a first baseman who can't make, or not that he can't, but I'm not sure how it's going to go when it's time to turn a 3-6-3 double play in the 8th inning and I'm up a run, or in the 9th inning, I got Diaz on the mound, and there's a 1 or a 2 hopper to my right going towards second base, and Diaz, or whomever, I'm just using a high leverage situation, and Diaz is covered in first. Are you sure he's going to put it on the glove right by his head, or is he going to throw it in the stands? Or is it like with poor Senga when he ripped his hamstring? I mean, infield in, contact play, ground ball to Pete, first base, boom, runner goes on contact. Is he going to throw a strike to Alvarez or whomever's catching? I mean, I've seen too many where he has not. Man on first base. Maybe he's going with the pitch, bullet down the left field line. Now, this is all defense, and I'll tell you why in a minute, because obviously Alonso's a plus hitting, and Nimmo had some very good hitting characteristics as well. But man on first, going with the pitch, righty, bullet down the left field line. All right, Nimmo gets to it in pretty good time. Is he going to throw a dime to the cut? Or, I mean, God forbid he throws it past the cut and just throws like a 1 or a 2 hopper to the plate. That's never going to happen. But is he going to throw a strike with velo to Lindor, who's going to catch it in stride, turn, and then throw a dime and get him at the plate? That's how you win championships, man. Because the last time a New York team was in a World Series, the Yankees couldn't do that stuff. And I got news for you. If the Mets, the previous iteration of the Mets, were on the World Series stage, I promise you that either Nimmo and now Soto, he's average in right, but sometimes he takes a step in, balls over his head. We saw it. He's got a good arm. The other stuff, he's going to be a problem when you can't have it on defense in a big spot in a World Series or a playoff game. Trust me, it's coming. And it's only going to get worse. Now, you could live with that with Soto because he's one of the best hitters walking the earth. But you want to have that in right, and you want to have that in left, and you want to have McNeil at second, who can't go up the middle. Oh, McNeil, he's such a versatile defender. Fantastic. Listen, I think the word versatility is incredibly overrated if you're only average at three positions. Like Bellinger is different than McNeil. Bellinger, put him in left, stud. Put him in center, stud. Put him at first, stud. Put McNeil in center, worst. I know he didn't play there much. Worst defensive center fielder in baseball. Put him at second, average. Balls hit at him, he'll make the play. Anything with any sort of range, tough. Anything in left field, all right, he'll catch the pop-up, sure. He's got a better arm than Nimmo, who doesn't? Sure. But he's not making plays. He's not a plus defender. He's not saving you runs. Run prevention. Remember that? So, I mean, I love this stuff because to me, building a team in baseball is football's right there too. Because basketball, you just focus on the star. Like, oh, go get Giannis, go get LeBron, go get, whomever, go get Anthony Davis a couple of years ago, right? Go get KD. And you basically have a team, right? But in baseball, the roster construction, man, there's so many interrelated things that the average fan just doesn't incorporate, either because they don't know it, and many of you do, so that's not a knock. Some don't, but I think it's more about because you just kind of you gloss over the little stuff because all you see is how many home runs, what's the OPS. These other things matter. Like, Sal used to laugh, right? When I'd start referencing Baseball Savant, I'd start geeking out. Stuff matters. Like, you want to know a profile on a player, just go to Baseball Savant. Now, I'm not saying that you just type in Baseball Savant and say, okay, this guy's got a lot of red, I want him, and this guy's got red, I want him. This guy's got a little bit too much blue. No, I'm not saying that at all. You can't be married to the laptop. You got to let your eyes trust you a little bit, or you've got to trust your eyes, in the evaluation and your instinct, sure. And, if you have enough pluses at certain spots, yeah, you could roll the dice with an average defender. Like, put it this way. If the Mets if Keith Hernandez was playing first base and Ordonez was playing shortstop and Beltran was in center, I mean, can you get away with somebody like Vientos at third base for a little bit? Sure. You got Wally at second. You got guys who could pick. Yeah. I mean, you prefer David Wright or even Hubie Brooks at third base because Vientos is an absolute zero. He is a horrendous third base. He is not a third baseman. But you can kind of hide guys here and there if you have enough assets defensively. They didn't have any, or not enough for sure. Taylor's a good center fielder. When I really think about it, I do think Beatty's could be a good third baseman, but I mean, and I know it's like you look at Stearns and he's got the little J. Crew sweater and the button-up shirt. He's got the hair parted to the side. I say this with reverence. I don't mean this as a shot. Little baseball geek. I mean, he is, right? He is. And you see that, you're like, look at this guy building the team, right? And then when he drops the term run prevention and all these other prepackaged baseball terms, and he's not alone. I mean, Cashman does it too. Boone does it with the lanes, right? Drives me nuts. But they're not wrong fundamentally. We might not like the presentation. It might be a little geeked up for us. Hey, can you catch it? Can you throw? Can you run? But he's right in his pursuit of what he believes will ultimately allow the Mets to win. See, in baseball, right? And this was a problem for the Yankees, and it's almost always a problem for the Yankees in the playoffs, less in the regular season, although I do think it could be more problematic this regular season because the American League East is going to be treacherous. And I'll get to the Yankees move yesterday and what I think, more importantly, what that might mean big picture with the trade with the Marlins for Weathers and the 4 prospects, right? But if you can get through a regular season, bang a lot of home runs, average on the bases, not take many risks, okay? 3 or 4 subpar, substandard defensive players around the field, right? Sprinkled anywhere, wherever they might be. And you can beat up on average pitching and look to be like you're an elevated version of who you really are. And then you get to the Dodgers series, right? The World Series a couple of years ago. And Rizzo was a good fielder. I don't know what the hell happened to him, but, Rizzo, Cole not covering first, Judge dropping a pop-up in center. Obviously, the play with Volpe and Grisham and Jazz at third base, like Those plays must be made. Must. And all right, do they have to be made against the Pirates in May or the White Sox or last year's Orioles or for the Mets, against the Marlins actually are getting better so that we can no longer just say the Marlins. Marlins actually have talent. The Rockies, there you go. Or the A's, even though the A's are ascending a little bit as well. They got a couple of good players, but you get the point. Yeah, you could get away with it because, you're seeing some average bullpen arms and starters, but now you're in the playoffs and almost every legitimate World Series, like a viable World Series team, has two legit front of the rotation arms, two or three power, high leverage, seventh, eighth inning spots, couple of guys on 1 or 2 run game that are coming out throwing 98, 99 with filthy secondary stuff. And then you've got some beast coming out of the bullpen to put a bow on it. And when you start seeing that, the offense goes down. There's fewer base runners. There's not as many walks, obviously, so there's fewer base runners. And now it is a premium how you catch the ball and those defensive plays that you make or don't make. That leaves the window slightly open for the pitcher to make one mistake. And instead of a solo home run, it's now a 3-run bomb and it's lights out and you're not going to win. So I know there's a lot there, but I thought Stearns did a good job. I really did. You might not want to hear it as a Mets fan. That's fine. I'm telling you, I think that the next version of the New York Mets is going to be, number one, better, most importantly, better, and night to night, more exciting because you're going to have eventually more athletes, whether it's bench. I don't know. I've never seen the kid play. Jet Williams, been hearing about Jet Williams for 3 years. Can you play? I don't know. Same with Dominguez and Jones. I don't know. But now you're going to start seeing the guys that they drafted and developed hit the pipeline like you did in Milwaukee. Guys like Sproat, guys like Tong, flamethrowers, McLean. You just got to let it root. You have to give them a chance to put some water on it, man. At Vincent-V. I mean, to talk about a handle here, Vinny. I think you know who I'm talking about. I love the Mets, but it was time for change. There you go. There is a sane, sound Mets fan. He knows what's going on. At Southern Yankee Sneakers. I wanted Pete, but he struck out too much. So if you say Yankees, are you a Yankee fan who wanted Pete, or are you a Met fan who wanted Pete? Either way, I did not want Pete. As a Yankee fan, I didn't want him on my team. And just objectively analyzing and talking about baseball, I thought it was time for him to go from the Mets, as I've said. Now, think about this. Think about what I said before, and then I'm going to get into the Yankee trade here. So the hats, either the villainous cape or the white hero hat, right? That Stearns will ultimately wear. One of those two things. And he's going to take the heat now. You guys are pissed off. You're letting them know. I got it. Okay. And then the season will start, and then we'll see who else is here. And then we'll see what it looks like at midseason with a trade. And then over the next 2-3 years, if he gets that long, and he should, as long as it's not a disaster. So there's going to be that version. And the Mets will win, and maybe they crack through for the first time since '86, and you're happy, and you don't miss Pete, and you don't miss Nimmo. You find without Diaz, and you actually win a World Series. For the first time since Run DMC was singing Peter Piper. That's a great song right there. That's a great song. Peter Piper. That's a good one. Yeah. Oh, I used to blast that every day. I'll tell you a little side story on the music. So when we were growing up, I mean, it's funny. Kids don't do it as much because it's much more structured now. Like there's always a practice, always a lesson, always something. But when we were growing up, there was no lessons. There was no specialization. There was no training. There was no like, all right, come on, son, we're going to take you to a hitting coach tonight. Or come on, you got your pitching lesson tonight. No, the pitching lesson is me trying to strike out my buddy Tommy in the street with a nasty rising wiffle ball, for 3, 4, 5 years in a row. But in my backyard, and kids don't do this either, which is unfortunate. There's a lot of good things about it. I'm not trying to be the old guy who just, says everything was better back in the day. It wasn't. Some things were better. Some things weren't. But one thing that was awesome that today's generation just doesn't do. And when I said Run DMC, I thought about this. So my backyard, it was about, like, if you actually saw this office, it's not huge. It's not minuscule, but it's certainly not, it's not huge. And my backyard, this little concrete slab in Brooklyn, right? And I remember the day that my dad actually put the concrete down. I was pumped because that meant we were going to get the hoop. And we play every day in the backyard. And it was me, my buddy Danny, my buddy Pat, my buddy Timmy. Sometimes Chad was there, who was a great baseball player, got drafted, played at Seton Hall, made it up to AAA with the White Sox, played with Rich Aurelia, wound up hurting his shoulder. He was on the 40-man roster. Chad would have made the majors as a pitcher. Danny was the best athlete in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, Rockaway, the absolute best. Pat played college basketball, and Timmy was a bowler as well. Two of those three guys are firemen now. Great dudes, right? Anyway, we would play in the backyard, and there was no jump shots because there was no space. You had to go to the rim. And the way my house, like imagine this being the house, right? Where my hand is. And then in front of me, as I'm pushing toward the screen, was the little concrete basketball slab, otherwise known as the hell pit, because you're getting fouled or you're getting dunked on, right? And my sister's bedroom, mine was on the other side of the house next to my parents, so I really couldn't get away with anything. Probably by design, they put me there and they put her here, or they put her there. And her window was like 2 stories above where we'd play hoops. So I'd get my big boom box, right? And the Peter Piper was always banging. I mean, a lot of Run DMC, a lot of hard rock too, a little like Iron Maiden, a lot of Beastie Boys. Oh my God. And the worst thing about that for me, and it was my home court, is of the 4 or the 5 guys, I was the worst athlete, right? So these guys, they could all jump. I could shoot the shit out of it. I could shoot. I could shoot now, but I couldn't move. And so I wasn't dunking on anybody. I was like, because I was smaller and I couldn't really jump. So I'm going to the rim and I'm like double pumping on this little 8-foot hoop when I'm like 10 years old. These guys are coming in the lane, cocking it back, yoking it. I'm like this. And Peter Piper was always, that Run DMC tape was always, oh my Adidas. Oh my God, good stuff. All right. I'm going to get a couple of these messages here. Tell you something on the Yankees in a minute as well. I like what the Yankees did. I think some of you are missing something. And I don't know if I want to give the Yankees credit enough where I think that they will do this. But if they do, I think Yankee fans will be very happy. I'm going to hit you with that in a minute here. All right. So Jeff Fanatic -1, thank you for the text there, Jeff. If they don't sign Tucker, after all the hype, what do we think the fans' reaction will be? That's a good question. I think that, first of all, they'd have to do some other stuff. Like, you got to get a pitcher. You must shield McClain. I think Manaea bounces back myself. Maybe not quite like the 18-start version that he was, because he was one of the best pitchers in baseball for half the season a couple of years ago. He's not that guy. I don't think he'll ever be that guy again, actually. But I think he's going to be better than he was a year ago. He wasn't healthy, right? So I think Manaea could be a terrific 3 or 4. I mean, if Manaea is a 4, you got a pretty good team. So let's just say the Mets, and I'll answer the Tucker thing in a minute, but let's say they get Peralta, and I think they will. Peralta, McClain, even if you have to bump up Manaea to 3, we'll see if they make the trade with Senga. Obviously, you got Holmes, Sproat, or Tong, whomever's not dealt in the what I anticipate to be a Peralta trade, whatever. I think it's actually pretty decent. I really do. Now, to answer that directly, if they don't sign Kyle Tucker, I know Met fans would be disappointed because you have these visions of now batting Lindor, now batting Soto, now batting Tucker. I challenge you to find a better 1 through 3. I like Lindor, but don't love him. But Soto, if that was Soto's worst year as a Met, like think about Beltran's first year. 16 home runs, didn't do much, right? And then he became a great player. Now, Soto garnered some heat a year ago because he wasn't clutch, got off to a rough start. All right, and the Mets didn't win. Like, he leaves the Yankees. Yankees win 94, and the Yankees win a playoff round. He goes to the Mets, who were in the playoffs the previous year. They win 6 fewer games, and they don't make the playoffs, and he was a dud in clutch spots, high leverage spots. He felt the heat a little bit, but if that's his worst, and the numbers were still there because he's Soto, but if that's his worst Mets year, look out. And then you throw Tucker in there. Wow. I don't think, Vin, that it would be warranted for the Met fan to have this crazy visceral reaction. It's not like the Mets would have whiffed, assuming that they do, just answering your question, because they were cheap or they didn't want to go all the way. I'm not giving Kyle Tucker 8-9 years. You're out of your mind. If the Dodgers wanted to, Toronto, take him. Well, Dodgers wouldn't. I think the only team that would be Toronto. And I remember saying yesterday on the show, I think he's going to wind up in Toronto. I feel less confident about that now because it looks like the Mets are real serious. You come with 50 AAV to the table, you got my attention. You really do. And then there was some other connections. Stearns early on with the Astros knows Tucker. Somebody in the organization from a hitting coach perspective, one of the coaches worked with Tucker. I don't know. Maybe that's the end. Maybe that's the thing that pushes him to Queens here. But if the Mets whiff on Tucker, I would absolve them of any blame because it wouldn't be any like a lack of willing to go the distance because I don't think he's worth 8-9 years. Like if he signs with Toronto and he gets let's see, he's not getting 4. If you get 30, let's just say, let me just throw this out here. 40 times 8 is 320. He's not getting 40 for 8 years, I don't think. I mean, you never know. Jeez. All right, let's just say round numbers, make it easy. Let's say he gets 40 a year for 8 or 49, 360. Let's say he gets 360 total Toronto. That would be a dumb move. So I would actually have the Mets back there saying, you know what? I really like Kyle Tucker, but there's been some injuries. There's been enough questions. Like, I get it, trying to maximize whatever's left of Lindor's prime and obviously pair those 3 guys together for a couple of years at big money because that's the Cohen advantage. But I would absolve them from any hit piece, at least by me. I mean, maybe you guys would see it differently. I would think that would be unfair and without justification. And the Mets are showing a willingness here that, quite frankly, I'd like to see the freaking Yankees show once in a while. Like, this is frustrating. I give the Mets a lot of credit here. At least giving Tucker something to think about. Like, why don't the Yankees think of this? Let's see. We're engaged with Bellinger. I don't know, maybe just to get Bellinger's camp off their ass and facilitate a deal. How about we leak it and actually offer it and then leak it? Hey, we got Tucker an offer for $50 million a year for 3 or 4 years, $200, whatever. Nope, nothing. They don't even think of that. Whereas the Mets are thinking creatively, where they're trying to get away from those long, burdensome deals. Now, I mean, Soto's going to be a stud for a long time, but the back end of that deal is going to be a nightmare. I could just picture like he's going to be heavy. He's going to be slow. His bat's going to slow down. So the average, I mean, it's going to be an issue at the end, but it's a signing that you do, and it was worth it. You know what you're getting on the back end, but you can't have multiple contracts like that. You can't have it. That's what the Yankees have had. They have it with Stanton, had it with DJ, lesser extent for less money, but it just creates a logistical issue in terms of constructing a roster. All right. So no, I wouldn't get after the Mets there. If he goes to Toronto for, 8-9 years, almost $400 million, hey, knock him out. Now that complicates the Yankees world, but I'm just focusing on the Mets and the question there. Not a big deal at that point. Look at this. Let me see. Hold on. What do we got? All right. Mets fan. Pete's also double play machine. Yeah, that's true. Let's see any super chats here. I'm gonna have to get these going here. I think I'll be a little. Oh, we got something here. What do we got? David Cohen, 1991. Hey, BT, did you see Harbaugh is currently in Jersey for an in-person interview with the Giants? Hopefully he signs today. I mean, that's got to be the guy. I've spent a lot of time on Harbaugh and Tomlin yesterday, but Harbaugh. And thank you for that. I really appreciate you hitting me up there with the super chat. Thank you, David. Good stuff. I think that he's going to wind up being the head coach of the New York Giants. I really do. I can't prove it. I don't know for sure. I don't think the Giants will bungle this. When was the last time, or butcher this? When was the last time that the Giants had not only this urgency, but took this kind of a swing at a head coach? Even when they brought in Coughlin, it wasn't like this. Like, Coughlin wasn't as revered in Jacksonville as I think Harbaugh is certainly around the NFL now. And even if it's a bit overstated, some of the love for John Harbaugh, as I pointed out, a little overrated, but would be a fantastic addition for the Giants. Giants are going to give him the budget to build out the staff the way he's got to build it out. I think, if it is John, and I think it's going to be, that press conference, home run, order and a discipline and an absolute clear vision as to what the Giants are going to be and what they're going to become. It just changes everything about the New York Giants. So they know that. Chris Mara is very involved in this. He went to his home down in Baltimore on Sunday, had a little Sunday sauce. Did he bring the Mara? You got the vowel Mara. Did he go old school and bring the brajol, bring the neck bones? That's it. Now they're showing up at people's houses just having dinner. Yo, John, I got the Italian bread here, John. But that's smart. You've got to personalize it. And I do think that he's going to be the coach of the Giants. Now, it looks like Tomlin's going to sit out a year, which obviously would be very interesting for the Jets in 2027. Like, imagine Tomlin, and this is very easy to imagine, Tomlin, jumps on whatever network he wants, whatever blank check he's handed to go on TV and be awesome, which he will be. Then He's like, all right, this is boring. I'm a coach. I need the whistle. Let me get back out there and coach. And let's say the Jets go 5-12 and Glenn's bounced. All right, here comes Tomlin. You've got all the power. Now, maybe he wouldn't want to align himself with Woody. Why would you? But money talks, 3 first-round picks next year. Like that is something that is going to be on the Jets, on Jet fans' radar for a long time. I mean, really most of this year. If they're not playing well, it's going to be Tomlin all season, which will be fun to an extent, and then it's going to be absolutely exhausting. I would think. Let's see here. All right, let me tell you the Yankees trade here. If you want to get any more of those good chats in there, the super chats are just a lot easier for me to see because they're highlighted, whatever. Some of this other stuff blends in. Not that I'm not reading it, I'm looking at it, but the super chats definitely jump out. All right, so we got another Weathers on the Yankees, right? And his name is Ryan Weathers. He's a lefty, throws 97. That is in the 81 percentile in terms of fastballs in Major League Baseball. He throws absolute cheese. His other stuff is good. I don't know that it's amazing. He's had some injuries. Listen, the Yankees gave up a lot in the eyes of some. Did they really, though? I don't know that they did. I don't know that. What did they give up? So they give up Dylan Lewis. That was the main one. Now, there's MLB Pipeline. There's these different websites. So basically just trying to aggregate everything because for one of them, he was the 8th overall prospect, but in the Yankee system. Not overall, I should. So in the Yankees prospect, number 8. But via Pipeline, and I was doing this last night when I got home from the St. John's game. Johnny's looked good, by the way. Big game against Villanova Saturday. Johnny's starting to cook a little bit. Give you a thought on them before I bounce as well. But the consensus is that he is the 15th rated Yankee prospect, which means nothing to me. I really, unless you're Lombard or a lesser extent Spencer Jones, and yeah, I mean, he strikes out a ton, but I'm still intrigued a little bit. I just don't care anymore. I don't care about prospects, especially position players. Yankees never hit it out of the park anymore. So I'm done wasting energy on that. So if you want Dylan Lewis, who's an outfielder, take him. You want Brendan Jones, who, by the way, is the 16th rated Yankee prospect outfielder. You want Dylan Giasso, 23rd rated prospect. He's an infielder. Take him. You want Juan Matthews, Juan Matthews, not ranked international pool. Take him. Take somebody else. I don't care. Take him. Because what this is, see, the easy way to react to the trade is, all right, well, now the Yankees got, Yankees like to get those guys who are controllable. Got 3 more years of controllability. He's cheap. He's a lefty. He's got upside. Like, that's actually how the Marlins should be operating. Not you should be flipping this, not the Yankees. But they do. And as much as it bothers me with some stuff that they do, Cashman's got a good track record with this. Bednar, like, think about what the Yankees did at the deadline a year ago versus what the Mets did, and not just how bad some of the pitchers pitched for the Mets and how good Bednar was for the Yankees, right? But the guys that Cashman got, including Bednar, are controllable, and they got a lot of work to do still in the bullpen. I'm not saying they don't, but the Met guys that were brought in by Stearns, there was no controllability. So Rogers gone, Helsley got, so those guys are gone. You don't mind that Helsley's gone, but he's gone. And I think Cashman has great aptitude with these pitching moves here. So I like it on the surface. Now, first, the little teeny tiny, micro evaluation. The micro evaluation is this. The Yankees now have a surplus of arms and options, which I think is smart because early on, no Cole, no Rodon, we know that. So you're looking at a rotation early on of obviously, say, Fried, of Schlittler. I know they signed Yarborough. I know you got Luis Heel. I know you got Warren. Schmidt's not coming back till August. Coleman, Rodon on the side. I think I'm missing one. But they've got an abundance of arms and really 3 or 4 guys that are going to battle out the back spot of the rotation just to get the Yankees past April and May. And if it works out, well, then if that works out and Cole really comes back and he's Garrett Cole, then the Yankees rotation set up to be the best in baseball. And I think that the Yankees have a path to be terrific, albeit maybe different from previous Yankee paths where they usually hit. This team coming up in 2026 very well might be led by the staff. I got to smooth out that bullpen, as I said. So I get that move, all right? And I get it, all the haters out there where, look at the Yankees, nickel and diamond. Oh, look at them going out there and getting somebody who's making peanuts who, is not going to be eligible for free agency until 2030, whatever the hell year it is. I think it's 2030, 2029. Let's see, 26, 27. Yeah, I think it's 2029. He's got 3 years of controllability, as I said. And yeah, everybody throws their little jabs out there, Yankees, nickel and dime, these little tiny moves. Well, it's not a tiny move if it morphs into this. And now let me present you with the macro version of this move from a Yankee perspective. Now, first you address the shortage of arms. You do that. And by the way, Weathers is in. Even if what I'm about to tell you doesn't come to fruition, I'm intrigued enough just based on his profile, right? I'm like, okay, he's youngish. He's missed a lot of time. He throws absolute gas. He's a lefty. You've seen him pitch against the Mets and the Yankees, and he's got some balls out there. Like he's got a little bit of a presence. He's got some moxie. So I think that there's something there. So that alone, and especially since they gave up nothing, don't get wrapped up in God, the Yankees gave up so much. They gave up nothing. You won't even hear about these kids. You just won't. That's the way baseball, maybe one of them makes it. All right. So that's that aspect. The other aspect is, well, now by getting a reinforcement, and now they've got a lot of those arms, what if the next move is, and I don't know who they would want, if they want Heel or if they want Warren, and then obviously like a lower level, probably a higher rated player than some of the players they gave up here, maybe the number 5 prospect, whatever. And you go out there and you get either Kwan or Nico Horner. How about that? See, that's how you got to think. Because if Cashman's not thinking that way, then Cashman's more lost than I thought. You must be thinking that way. Because that's the first thing that I thought of. I didn't get excited. Now, I didn't just pounce on it and just, that's the low-hanging fruit. Anything that the Yankees do gets crushed, right? I think that's unfair, and I think that that's lazy, and I don't subscribe to that. If they need to get crushed, I will crush them as loud and as effectively as anybody with a microphone. You guys know that by now. But to rail on stuff that is not railable is stupid. It's just lazy. Like it lacks intelligence. Like if you guys can't see if you didn't see it, and now that I told you, if you can't embrace that on some level, not saying you got to love it. It's not an A move, like an A+ move, but it's a move that makes baseball sense. Lefty, almost 100, still young, battled some injuries, get him in the Yankee lab, and they don't call it the lab, but the Yankees pitching lab is actually better than whatever the Mets lab was. Get him in the Yankee lab, right? Tweak him a little bit, see what, and when I say tweak, let me just take a little side turn here. A lot of organizations, when they evaluate a pitcher, I mean, everybody's got the radar gun. All right, average velo, 96.8, 80%. I mean, I know that because I went and I looked it up, right? But what I don't necessarily know, although I could do a deeper dive, which I will, is they are going to probably eliminate a pitch that has led to him getting knocked around a little bit. Now, the last 2 years when he's actually pitched, ERA around 3.47, a lot of strikeouts. So there's something there that's appealing to them. And in their minds, and they're pretty good with the pitching, they're probably saying, and I don't know if it's the slider. I'm just throwing that out. You know what, guys? Slider just, man, it's not even getting lefties out. Righties are banging them all over the yard. But, the changeup, which you only threw about 3 or 4 or 5% of the time. And again, I'm just making up these numbers to prove a point. And he leaned on the slider at 13, 14%. That's a pretty high usage rate, but it's not effective. Let's trim down the slider from 12. I should be a GM. From 12%. I'd love to be a GM at some point, man. I got time. So from 12%, we'll trim the slider from 12% to 5%, and we'll elevate the other pitch, which he doesn't lean on, but has yielded pretty good results in a small sample. And when you do that, sometimes it actually works, and you might get a better version of Weathers. So I think that's pretty important. And I also do think that there has to be another move. Now, I know that everybody's waiting on Bellinger. All right. I'm on the record. I'm not going to restate this every single day. 5 years, I'm happy to have Bellinger back. If he's adamant on 6, get lost, don't need you. If you want 7, it's a pipe dream. Conversation's over. Click. Don't even call me back. No chance in hell you getting 7. I wouldn't give you 6. All right. You're not that good of a player. You're not special. You're not a difference maker. You're not elite. There's been incredible statistical volatility in his career. And I'm not looking to sign up for that long term, despite I know Judge wants him back and he fits so well when he plays left and center and first. We all know this because we all watched him. And he's a very valuable player. But the contract has to be commensurate with the value. And, there's a lot of advanced analytics that are very unkind to Bellinger. Either way, hopefully he's back for 5 years. Now, what I don't get I don't know why the Yankees wouldn't just throw in, oh, Cohen's doing 50 mil. Yeah, we'll give you 55 for 3 years with an opt out. Like that would really just be going for it. Because you look at the Mets and if let's say if they get Tucker, you're looking at $101 million for your left and your right fielder, which I think is ridiculous. I mean, honestly, I'm not going to say untenable because untenable implies that you can't do it. And that's not the case because Cohen with that money could do whatever he wants. But I don't think that's the best way, certainly long term. A couple years I could ride with that, but long term, you don't want to build out a team that way. Now, funny, I want to give Sal a shout out. So I was watching Sports Night last night. And he made a good point. I think a lot of you were saying, well, and it is true. Tucker has taken a step back defensively in the metrics, right? You know, a year or two ago, he was an elite outfielder, plays right field. This obviously got an issue with Soto playing right as well. Soto's played some left, Tucker more for right fielder. So if they move or if they get him, I would think that Soto would go to left. But Sal's point was, well, you know, think about this. Think about because the run prevention is the term, right? Run prevention, run prevention. Well, Nimmo was awful in left field. You had an elite center fielder in Taylor or borderline elite, and you had an average to slightly below right fielder defense. Now, that was last year. But while Tucker slipped a bit, if you put him in left or you put him in right, that he's going to be better than Soto was defensively in right field the year ago. So that's an upgrade defensively. Think about this. And then you put Soto in left, and Soto, I think, based on his arm strength, would be a slight upgrade over Nimmo last year in left field. So in a wacky way, we could sit here and say, and again, the numbers do reflect this, that he's taken a bit of a step back defensively. But in terms of the Mets' overall outfield defense last year, I think it will be better this year if they actually do that. By the way, I'm looking out my window now. They're taking up the Christmas lights, or they're taking them down. What a sad. I hate when they take it. Well, I love when they put them up. I love when they first get lit. It's sad when they take them down. What's even more sad is when you still drive around. And I know you guys see this wherever you live. Like, come on, stop being lazy. It's past little Christmas if you're really religious, right? January 6th, the wise men coming with the gifts. You got to shut the lights off after a certain point. You just look like you don't know what the hell's going on. And there are still lights that are on. I mean, bright Christmas lights that are on in my neighborhood. And what is it, the 14th, whatever it is? Yeah, 14th. They'll be on until almost February. It's just so lazy. It looks weird. And it is depressing because when the Christmas lights go up, God, I absolutely love it. I love when it makes you feel good. And we never put the Christmas tree up early in my house growing up. We would always do like the first Saturday in December, right? I remember it. The guy's literally right outside my window. Hey, you want to come talk shop? I need a guest. We would play football in the street, just beat the shit out of each other. And then my mom would call me in. All right, time to put the tree up. And it was always now it depends where that first Saturday in December fell. It could be December 2nd, it could be December 7th or so, something like that. And it was awesome, man. Hot chocolate, the music. I'm talking when I was really young. And now, and I don't really know when the tradition started, and we adjusted in my house. We put the lights up, we put the trees up because we go to Dallas, my in-laws, for Thanksgiving. We have the Christmas lights on, so they come and they're installed on the whole house because I'm not getting up on the ladder. I got no problem doing some work, but I'm not getting up on the ladder going up to the top of my house. I'm just not doing it. I don't know how. But we'll put those up December, and then right before Thanksgiving. And then when we come back, the lights are on, and then I usually come back, or I used to come back a day or two early so I could get back. I don't miss any time on the fan during an important time of the year. And then they would come back a day or two later, and then I would bring the Christmas tree up. We got like a 10-foot artificial one, put it up, and then Mama and the kids come home, decorate it that next Saturday. Hot chocolate, music, but it is depressing as I watch them take the lights down. But it's depressing, but it also tells you what's coming. Baseball season's coming. I mean, it's just my son's got his first for the travel team that I coach. We've got our first practice today at 4:30 indoor. And then for his club team, they already started 2 Saturdays ago. So they've already had a couple of practices, man. It is awesome. I love baseball season on this channel is going to be phenomenal. I got to do a couple watch parties here. I just got to figure out how to do it. So I like what the Yankees did. I would love for that to lead to a bigger move. And, of the two, I think many of you will disagree. let's just say what I proposed is true, and they made a move to foreshadow or put themselves in a position to make another move, which would be Horner or Quan from the Guardians. I think I'd rather trade Louis Heel than Warren. Imagine saying that 2 years ago when he was winning the Rookie of the Year. Hell, I remember saying, we've all said some wacky things. I remember saying, and by the way, when I said it, it wasn't crazy. The unfortunate part was I may have mushed him because right after I said it, the numbers kind of bottomed out a little bit. But I remember saying, like, hey, because Sal was too young to have actually really watched Dwight Gooden in 85 and 84. And I was watching him. And I'm saying, I mean, you got to go back to Heel a couple of years ago. Did Dwight Gooden really look that different? Like, if you look, that Dwight Gooden is the greatest phenom I've ever seen. I have never seen any little Fernando mania, but even Doc was just different. That curveball that would literally go, boom, 12-6, drop, Lord Charles, drop off the table. And a fastball, which seemingly elevated and rose as it got in the strike zone. I remember seeing guys like Mike Schmidt and Ryan Sandberg and like professional hitters, their knees buckling when he would throw that, like literally buckle like a little leaguer seeing a deuce for the first time. So maybe I overstated a bit, but Louis Seals, go check out the numbers. Go look at his up and through April, May, and maybe slightly into June is when I said it. It wasn't that crazy when I said it, but he hasn't been the same guy since. He's been hurt. He got rocked in the playoffs. I think Will Warren's got a chance to be a good pitcher. Now, that's not to say that if they hold on to Heel can't give them, 12, 13 wins and, 3.7, 3.5 ERA, some strikeouts, whatever. Yeah, I mean, there's upside there because he's still young. But if I had to make an evaluation now and I had to trade one of those two and like the Cubs or the Guardians like them both, myself, I would prefer that they would take Louis Seal and I would keep Will Warren. That's what I would say. All right, let me see here. At Blown, 5 p.m. 14. Semien hasn't been good in years. Polanco had one good 3-month stretch and postseason run in Seattle. Signed him to play a position he's never played before. Makes sense. I'm telling you right now, Polanco will be a better fielding first baseman than Pete. I don't know if he's going to have the pick rate that Pete had, because Pete was really good at that. But I think the other stuff, but come on, he's an infield. He's got better hands. He's a better athlete, and he's going to hit. I think you guys are going to like Polanco, especially if he's hitting like 6 somewhere in that neighborhood, which is where he should be hitting for a good team. I don't know if he'll be there for the Mets this year. He might be up a spot, but we'll see. All depends on Tucker, some other stuff. I think Semien's an upgrade. I think Semien's I know he's a better clubhouse guy than McNeil. I can't define the friction, but I can say, like, all right, it seemed like there was friction. So, number one, McNeil's not a great player, so it made sense to move on from him and do that. And you get somebody who's a superior defender. So now I think automatically the right side with Polanco and with Semien better than the right side, Pete and McNeil. And listen, the other thing you could do is now maybe what he did the other night, hitting the 4 home runs. I don't know. I'm not going to overreact to that, playing winter ball, but with Acuna hitting 4 home runs, maybe when you look at the Peralta trade, maybe that's somebody, because that does fit the Brewers profile. Fast, got some life in his hands. Maybe you package like a Sproat or a Tong with him, maybe that does get you Peralta. So there's still things to be done. It's exciting. It's a little frustrating because it's been very quiet. I mean, it's been a deconstruction. There's been no additions really. So we've been sitting here watching, as all the big teams just kind of pounce around the good players, and somebody's going to eventually get a hook in them and pull them in. And it very well might be the Mets with Tucker. It just feels like, I tweeted this Sunday, this week it's going to break. Like, I'd be stunned. We get to this Sunday night, was Monday Martin Luther King Day? I think, kids have off Monday. So moving into the Monday holiday, I can't imagine that we're back on this and next week, and Bellinger, there's no resolution. Tucker still hasn't signed. Bichette's still floating out there. It's got to come together. It really is. And, I understand that these guys are still, they're able to compartmentalize like their workouts and preparing for a season, but they're still human beings. Like, if I'm Bo Bichette and I've got a home or whatever, a nice condo up in Toronto, and I'm preparing, but I don't know if it's going to definitely happen, to move to Philly, where he's got roots. I think his wife is from there, whatever. Like, so that would make it easier. But there's still like the logistical mental gymnastics of if you and I've moved a lot. Man, I have moved. I guarantee I've moved more than anybody. I'm going to actually do this now. I'm going to mess around and take a little side swipe here. I guarantee I have moved more than anybody that is watching this or listening to this. I promise you that. So, I'm going to say the over under is 12. That's the number post my parents, post college, right? So I graduate college. My first apartment is in downtown Brooklyn. My best friend's dad owned a brownstone. So we were paying like $300 a month. Granted, it's also a long time ago. And I was an intern at WFAN and like bartending and just scraping together a few nickels and just partying basically. So, all right. So that was in Brooklyn Heights, number one. Then I think I had to move home, but I won't count that. I had to move back home. Then I start my career. So I got the Brooklyn residence. Then I moved to Allentown, Pennsylvania, first radio job. Then I moved to Las Vegas for my second radio job. Then I moved to Detroit for a radio job. Then I moved back home to New York to go to 1050. And I remember staying at my parents for like 3 months as I looked for an apartment, and I found one in Manhattan. So that was on the Upper West Side. So that's now 5. Let me see. Brooklyn Heights, Allentown, Las Vegas, Detroit, Upper West Side. Then I met my wife, and we got engaged, and she was out of state, and we moved to the shipyards up in Hoboken, which was awesome. Used to take the ferry to work. All right, so now we're in Hoboken, and then from Hoboken, we go to San Francisco after I leave 1050 to go do afternoon drive in San Francisco. My buddy Jason Barrett Media. Shout out to those guys. So that's San Francisco. Then from San Francisco, CBS starts up the national network, and we moved back to New York. Chris Olivero and all those people, they hired me. It was awesome. That was when I was with Tiki. So now we moved to West New York. Now we're in a condo in West New York. And then from West New York, we built our home where I am now. What I won't tell you where I am now. Some of you know, but so that's 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But there, and I won't bore you with this anymore, but there was also, like in Vegas, I lived in a couple of different spots. Like the first month I was there and they put me up in a hotel. That was fun. Oh my God. Imagine being 25 years old and going to do radio in Las Vegas solo, like single, with not a single commitment. You got no bills. You got no money, but no responsibility except really taking the next step. And that was a pretty big step for me. Going now, it was at a national network. Pharrell was there. Jim Rome was there. Some of you might remember the fabulous Sports Babe, a pioneer in the business. She used to do her show out of Tampa, and she was a beast in the industry. She was pretty good, man. So there was some stars, and I was just starting out at that network doing weekend shows. But I remember I was in a hotel for like a month, and then I met a couple of guys at the station, and I moved in to one spot, and we had a blast. And then 4 of us got a house on the Strip. Oh my God! So even within the different cities, there were different moves. So the over/under was 12, and I went over. That's a lot. Let's hope this YouTube channel takes off. I don't have to move again. All right, what do we got here? Let's see. You know what? I was going to touch on this a little bit at Glenn Goldstein dash a bunch of letters that I'm not going to read. Hey, BT, what do you think about St. John? What do you give St. John's the chances of making the tournament? About 95%. Yeah, I mean, St. John's going to make the tournament. Listen, I was never worried about them not making the tournament. And they looked really good last night. Marquette's terrible. Wow, Shaka's he's got a young team, and he's a great coach, and they played their asses off. They played hard. And Pitino said that post-game. But the Marquette program is, wow. I mean, they might win 3-4 games in the entire conference there. I think they're 1-5 now, and they're like 6-15 overall. I don't remember the last time Marquette was this bad. It might be 25 years. Like, they are down. Like, they're down the way St. John's used to be down, right? Anyway, I think that St. John's is a lock for the tournament. I'm not even thinking about that. I was looking at some of the numbers over the weekend, and, you know, you had the engine that kind of aggregates all the different websites and comes up with a hybrid expected seeding, and they were generally in the 8-9 seed. And by the way, that's where they belong because they were not playing good. I mean, they weren't playing well enough against the good teams, is what I mean to say. Like, they had a chance to make some statements. They didn't make them. Outside of Providence, they didn't lose a game that they were supposed to win. But even the Providence game, and I remember leaving the Garden after that. 2 Saturdays ago saying to myself, all right, this might not be like I was feeling worse about the team than I was feeling good about the team. But since then, that was the Butler Creighton. They went back to back quad one road wins, which is really, listen, I don't care if Creighton's not what they were or Butler. It's still a quad one win, and it's still on the road in venues that they never win in. I think they're 2-14 all time at Creighton. Like they never win there, right? They've had some buzzer beat losses. Like Creighton's always good coach. So back to back quad one road wins. And then last night, they were 15.5 point favorites. I knew they would smash Marquette, and they did. Right. So now you're 5-1 in the conference. The numbers, you're top 30 in the net ranking. So right now, St. John's is 100%. Like they're obviously in. I was talking to Coach Lapis last night, who was right next to me and Minko doing the St. John's broadcast. Lapis was doing the game with Recco. So it was nice to see Jerry. Haven't seen Jerry in years, actually weeks. Jerry's one of my favorites at the Fan. He is just a great guy. I love Jerry Recco. So he was doing the national game, and he was next to Lapis, and then it was Lapis, and then it was me, and then it was Minko. And me and Lapis was shooting the breeze about everything before the game because we were there very early, and we were talking about St. John's. And he's kind of more with me that he thinks that they're going to probably work their way into like a good 4, maybe a 5. Maybe 4 is a bit ambitious, but maybe a good 5 seed. And then you're going to be very dangerous. You start playing that like the 6-11, 5-12 game. I right now, I'd probably say that's where St. John's would wind up. But they're getting an identity. Rick's getting a sense, and that's defense. They're getting a sense of Rick, who he wants to play, when he wants to play him. Zuby, I think Zuby was deferring early in the year to get guys like Hopkins and some of the new players, like kind of get them in the flow. And I think Zuby just said, you know what, listen, without saying it because he's just too high character to say that. But now I'm seeing it reflected in his game. Listen, if you're not following me, I'm the best player on this team, and you better wake up. Because now we're halfway through the season. It doesn't feel like last year, and we got aspirations here. We cut down Nets last year. We cut them down the regular season Big East champion. We cut them down to the Big East tournament championship, and we were 2 seed. And yeah, all right, you got punked by Arkansas. They did not play well at all that game. But St. John's went 31-5 last year, which was the most wins and I think it was the highest seed that they've had since the Final Four team in '85. Last year was a blast. And I never thought, Glenn, that they would be a 31-win team this year, and they won't be. But the object is to be a better team, more diverse, more dangerous, more potent, more well-rounded, deeper, less vulnerable against big athletic teams like they were with Arkansas and other SEC teams. That's why Rick scheduled a few this year when you meet up with them in the tournament. So we'll see. There's still a lot of things that need to be defined. I think that Sellers is becoming their go-to scorer outside. He's played great. He's better than I thought. He didn't come with a lot of fanfare. He's been, along with Zuby, their absolute best player. Sellers is a baller. He could shoot deep, go into the rim, mid-range game, plays like always on the court. And even Rick said, never gets tired. So Sellers has emerged. Zuby is terrific. I think Hopkins is figuring things out in the post with, he never really had to operate with a big like Zuby at Providence. And I was saying this last night during the game to Mink, a lot of Hopkins is, because he scored 1,000 points and they honored him before the game last night, even though like 900 and whatever were with the Friars. A lot of his work was done where they throw him the ball, foul line extended, maybe a little deeper on the wing, and he would just kind of assess and dribble and then get to the rim and pull up for some threes and obviously get some stickbacks too. But with Zuby, they had a rough time figuring out that chemistry where Zuby was in his way and he was in Zuby's way. I think they're flushing through that now. They've had some bench players, whether it's lefty hitting threes or Darling starting to shoot the ball better. Those roles are more defined. The one guy who I love Dylan Mitchell. He's kind of like a Sir Dom Pointer, if you remember him. The one guy that's got to wake up and play better is Sanin from Arizona State. I've been very disappointed with him. He's just not shot well. And he only played 6 minutes against Creighton. This guy was starting. I mean, Sanin was on NBA mock boards as one of the best shooters in the country. When they got him from Hurley at Arizona State, they took him in the portal. I thought that was probably the best get, maybe outside of Hopkins, who's disappointed a little bit as well this year. And he just has not answered the bell. But I'm not giving up on him because he's too good of a shooter. You could see him. He's mechanical. Like the one thing that he's still thinking, one thing that I've learned being around Rick now for a couple of years and talking to Rick and seeing how he really, really coaches and having, conversations on camera and off with Rick is, and I guess I didn't really factor this in. Yeah, I knew he was a tough coach and you better play defense, but like there's so much expected of you that if your calling card is offense, if you're not doing the right things on the like just to stay on the court and not just effort, but recognition and from a tactical point of view, your ass is on the bench. And somebody like Shannon, who's a shooter, I could see him. I'm like, man, shoot it, you were open. But he hesitates, then he passes. Once he gets past that, I think he's going to be a weapon down the stretch, but he has not been that player yet. So that represents a chance for St. John's to go even higher. They're a little slow to get to where I thought they would be when they crushed the portal and got the highest grade of anybody in the country, for whatever that means with the portal. There's no guarantee that they'll get there. I don't love the team. I like the team, but I'm starting to like the team more than I did early. They're starting to come together a little bit. All right, let me get a couple of more of these here. Yeah, St. John's looked good last night. They hung back-to-back 90-point games. First time they've done that. Actually, I think I saw the stat last night. First time they've scored 90 in back-to-back games in Big East play. And they did that, obviously, last two games here. Let's see. Got to head out, BT. Great listen today. Appreciate that. There you go. At Kutz J. There you go. Thoughts on Weather as a potential bullpen arm. This one's coming in from Gundog 901. Yeah. SBT, try him out as a starter with all the injuries. That's definitely part of the plan in the beginning of the year. And if it goes bad, he can move to the pen. Less injury risk, sure. I think that's part of it. There's no doubt. I think that, you're going, if everything goes well, and let's face it, in pro sport, it rarely goes perfectly, but you very well could have a rotation of, let's go Cole. I know I've done this before, but if you knew, I'm talking about middle of the season. Cole, Fried, Schlittler. Cole, Fried, Schlittler, Rodon. You got Heel, if he's not dealt. Warren, if he's not dealt. Clark Schmidt when he comes back. Weathers. Yeah, I know I'm missing somebody, but there's going to be that opportunity for one or two of those people to really distinguish themselves in bullpen roles. Now, it's not as transferable as you think. I mean, listen, you got good stuff. You're a pretty good starter. Why can't you get guys out in the bullpen? It's a different mindset. It's a different level of preparation. You can pitch back to back, whereas if you're a starter, you pitch, then you run the next day, then you long toss. There's a whole routine. It's a different routine. And these pro athletes at this level are routine oriented. So it's not as easy as you think, but certainly something I've thought about and certainly something possible. Johnny T, 2473 at Unleashed BT. I love the new setup. When do you expect Sal to be on the pod? I'm hoping you guys collab on something, even if it's one day a week. Miss the dynamic duo. I appreciate that. I've gotten that a lot. Thank you very much, guys. BT and Sal was a blast. I was talking to Sal yesterday. We were running down the script with my guy Martucci, Tooch, and Sal about our January 22nd live show with me and Sal, and of course Aaron Boone at the Vogel Theater in Red Bank, New Jersey. Great venue. Still some tickets left. I know they're a little pricey, but it's part of the meet and greet. If you can't swing it, I get it. I'm not just going to keep pimping tickets on you. I'm not desperate for that. If you want to come, would love to have you. It's 97% sold out. There's a couple of seats. They're not cheap, as I said, because it's the VIP package, which would include meeting Boone after the show, whatever. You want to come, great. So that's one thing we're going to do. We very well might look to do, once a month is a little bit ambitious, but once every couple of months, maybe where we take kind of a BT and Sal live show, do a little traveling. We're in Jersey, then maybe we're in Long Island, then maybe we're, out in Connecticut or something like that. That's the early stages of maybe coming to fruition. I know he's been on Stugotz a little bit. It's funny. He was ripping Stugotz, and so was I, for coming in trying to take people's jobs. And now he's on Stugotz. I saw a clip yesterday. He was on with Stugotz. I think he was a guest. I don't think he was co-host. I think he was a guest, but no, I love Sal. You guys know that. We had a great show. And things change and you can't control that. But if there's a window of opportunity to do something with him, I'm all for it. And so is he, but we've got our own things going on. It's so hopefully we can kind of intersect where he's doing his thing. I'm doing my thing. We do some joint things. As for him coming on as a guest, I would say that, well, first of all, I would think that it is my hope that I am going to have the paperwork finalized today with my producer. Like we're inside the 5-yard line, we're just dotting some I's, going over obviously some financial stuff and making it all work for both of us here. So I basically, you don't have him until you have him, and he's great, and it's going to be a great asset for the show. I believe it's going to work out, but I can't speak for him. It's not signed yet. But I would think tonight or tomorrow, there's a really good chance that I announce that, and then you'll meet him. I'll pull him into the show. You'll see him. And I'll have my producer. That's a big phase for the show. Because listen, these buttons, StreamYard, YouTube, X, Twitter. I mean, it's just a lot of buttons here. So as much as I figured it out, I am a guy who likes to talk. I have never been a behind the scenes guy. Like a lot of people in radio, even Sal, I remember, running the board, Mike and Chris, engineering, Moose, Carlin, like those guys grew up doing that. I never did that. I never knew how to run a board. I literally went from college, journalism degree, a little bartending, a little construction, a little Wall Street, a little hustling, try to get my first radio job to behind a microphone. I have no clue. Like if they said, hey, if I swear to God, it's not hyperbole. If they said, I will give you $100 million right now, if you go to any radio studio and you get that show on the air, and I'm just looking at a board, I would have no chance. I would not be able to do it. I don't know how. I never did it once. Well, I shouldn't say that. I tried to do it once. This is actually a funny story. God, I was just starting out. My goodness. So I'm in Allentown. We had the one phone line. I told you about that. When somebody would call the show, I would have to say, I would excuse. I don't even know if I would say it audibly, but I would excuse me. So I'd take my headsets off, right? And there was only one phone line. I would say, all right, yeah, 1320 Sports. And I would kind of get away from the microphone so they couldn't hear me because I didn't even have an off button there. Long story. It's a very antiquated setup, but it was a great time in my life and I enjoyed it. So I'd have to go away, right? Hey, 1320 Sports, WTKZ. You want to talk to the guys? And I was so pumped when we'd get a phone call, right? Because we didn't get many. And hey, we got Joe and Easton. Hey, Joe, we'll talk about the Sixers, Iverson, whatever, Eagles, whatever, McNabb. So my partner, Tom, who does Lehigh basketball, Lehigh football, host a show out there, Tom Fallon. Good, my first partner. Well, my dad was my first partner. My first official radio partner. Great guy. Really helped me a lot with the business, and he's still doing it, and I love him, and I'll always love him, right? So, and I still stay in touch with him a little bit. So he was on the other side of the glass. You've heard that expression. And I was in the studio. We just, because we couldn't pay anybody to Dove was our engineer. Hoff was our producer. Me and Sal do the show. That's WFAN, legitimate, as big an operation as you have in terrestrial radio. This was a little, maybe 1,000-watt station that aired high school games on Friday nights. And you had a bare bone staff. I was also the promotions director. So anyway, long story short, Tom, if he ever got sick, I don't know how we would get on the air because I didn't know how to do it. So did I even have a cell phone yet? This was 99. I don't think I got that cell phone until I got to Vegas. So I don't even think that I found out that he was sick until I got to the station. And now, instead of sitting in the studio that I usually sit in, doing my half of the show and answering the phone and doing whatever, I was doing weather as well. Oh, my God, traffic, weather. And it would actually say there's ducks on the road and there's cows on the road. And I was mispronouncing every street name. What an absolute disaster. You want to talk about learning as you go and then try to have a coherent thought and probably sounding terrible, as I probably did back then. So Tom doesn't come in. He's throwing up. He's sick. And I have to go sit where he sits. And back, it looked like this, a cart in radio. It was a little bit thicker, right? I'm holding up my phone. It was probably about that thick, but like rectangular shape kind of. And there would be music and like drops and stuff. So you'd actually put it in this antiquated machine and then have to hit another button and pot it up and make sure that goes on the air. I could not get on the air. I couldn't get on the air. Poor guy had to come out. I'll never forget this. I was talking to nobody. Like, all right, good morning, everybody. Whatever the hell I said. 1320 Sports, WTKC. What's going on? And as I'm saying, what's going on? I'm just banging away on buttons. I'm potting shit up. Nothing's on the air. I know we're not on the air. And finally, the GM, Lee, who loved me, thank God. She was awesome. Oh, man, she was great. Really gave me my first chance. I guess she calls Tom. She's like, dude, you got to get to the station. Get this idiot on the air. He comes in. I looked like he even had throw up on his shirt. He was so sick, had the flu, just gets me on the air. and then leaves. But I couldn't, even when I went to commercial break, I couldn't really turn things off because I didn't want to risk not being able to get back on the air. So the point is that when I have my producer, hopefully announced by tonight or tomorrow, then I can get the guests on. And then that would obviously include Sal, of course. I want to get Alex Rodriguez on. I'm going to have my guy Booney on. I want to have Sal on. I want to have Patino on. I want to have a lot of baseball guys on. It's going to have a lot of people on. I do think it's interesting to be able to have a conversation with somebody. Quite frankly, one of my favorite aspects of doing this is interviewing people. Like I've always taken pride in my ability to get people to loosen up and answer questions and feel comfortable. And I definitely didn't start like when you start out in radio, like you want to make news and you want to just grill people, fire away, right? Oh, I got a funny story for you that I will share now about interviewing. And you just go right for it. You bang, right? And I remember this is actually hysterical. So I'm at 1050, right? 04 maybe. Herm's the coach. And if you listen to 1050 back in the day, Wally Matthews, Tom Keegan used to do afternoon drive. And I had been brought in from Detroit where I was doing middays, right? And I was doing like a Saturday show, a Sunday show, and I was doing updates during afternoon drive, right? I was just doing updates because I wanted to, it was a chance to come home to New York. No interest in updates. Didn't even really care to do them right. I would basically do a 2-minute talk show, whatever. Was not an update guy, but it was a chance to get there. And they were out. Maybe it was Christmas. And I filled in for them as I would when they were out. Not Christmas Day, but Christmas week. And Herm, back then you pay Eli, hey, here's money, come on with Mike. Hey, Herm, here's money, come on with Wally and the Keeg. That's the way radio used to go. And Joe Torre, etc. So anyway, I got Herm on, and he's pissed, man. And this was when Curtis, remember when Curtis led the league in rushing at the age of 31? He had a massive bounce back season, but he was showing signs of attrition, and they had just drafted Lamont Jordan from Maryland. And I remember watching, because I bet some of his games. I'm like, oh, this guy's a horse. I think he was a second-round pick. I liked Lamont, and I wanted to see him play a little bit more. No disrespect to number 28, but he wasn't getting the job done. And, for weeks, I'm like, not to Herm, but just on the show when they would pull me in, which was a lot. You got to play Lamont. Come on, let's go. Enough. Let's get Lamont in there. Anyway. All right. Hey, welcome, 10 Fit. Welcome, joined by the head coach of the Jets, Herm Edwards. Herm, it's Brandon Tierney. How you doing today, buddy? Welcome to the show. Yeah, I'm good. I could tell right away, doesn't feel like talking. And he's a pretty affable guy, but he was just going through the ringer with the media. And now this is where I would like to think I've gotten better at interviewing, right? I went right for it. Instead of, doing a little tickle in, doing a little massage in, getting ready and then banging it through, boom, I come flying out like an idiot. And I admit it was a horrendously worded question. It may have been the longest question. I know I get a little wordy. I get that. It may have been the longest question in the history of radio. And I'll give you I wish I could find this tape. Something along the lines of this. All right, joined now by Herm. Doing? Yeah, I'm good. All right, yeah. And instead of just saying, well, hey, Herm, listen, the rushing attack is a little bit light, a little bit lean lately. I know you guys spent the second round pick on Lamont Jordan. Any thoughts about maybe getting him involved in the offense more? Boom, layout, right? Instead, I had to incorporate 9 opinions into that question. And then eventually, I think, ask a question. I'm not even sure if I asked the question. I really don't even know if I asked a question. But I think I did. So it was so long that when I finished, I was almost tired because the energy was I'm energetic. So I finished whatever it was that I said, and I leaned back, and you won't hear me as loud now, but you're watching. I leaned back in my chair oh, that was a great question. It was terrible. And I go like this, right? And I'm expecting a pretty eloquent answer because he was usually pretty good with that stuff. And all I hear is this. Yeah. That's all Herm Edwards said to my 90-second disjointed, opinion-fueled tirade slash half a question. He goes, yeah. I go, oh boy. Right now, because I was not as experienced as I am now. It matters. Like a quarterback getting reps, broadcasters got to get reps too. Mistake on my part. Never made this mistake again. So now I get caught off guard because I just leaned back for a second. I may have even been. I think, yeah, I leaned back for a second. Now I got to construct another question. And now I'm like stammering and I'm like a little bit off my game. And I kind of regurgitate the same shit. Shorter, but definitely the same message. Like, I'm not happy about the running game. And he goes, now I don't lean back as much because now I'm ready to fight. I'm like, all right, this is gonna be, I got a little battle here. I love this guy, but he's pissed and now I'm pissed. He goes like this again, hand to Bible. Yeah, that's what he says. So he's been on with me for about 2.5 minutes. I have rambled on for 2 minutes and 15 seconds of the 2.5 minutes. And he has said 2 words, and each word was 1 syllable. Yeah and yeah. Now I'm like, all right. So now I'm like, you got it. It's like fight or flight. I just go like this. Man, I got to find this. I go, what's the matter, coach? You don't feel like talking today? Like, I was so pissed off. That's exactly what I said. I go, what's the matter, Herm? You don't feel like talking today? And he goes, no. He goes, you know everything. Now you got all the answers. And now he personalized it to me, but then he went to you because it was really a station thing. And he was getting hit a lot in a lot of directions, right? He goes, you got all the answers. He goes, no, all you got. Then he's like, oh, you guys, this and that, think you know everything, this, that. He goes, here's what we'll do. They were still at Hofstra. He goes, why don't you come down to Hofstra next week? We could arrange you come down to the facility. We could sit down. We could watch some film. And, we can decide how we should use Lamont Jordan. He didn't think I was going to give him this answer. I go like this. I go, when can I come? I'm in. Absolutely. Let's go. Right. And a little bit of a choppy start to the interview. Probably, not the best way to go about it on my end. And he was pissed off, whatever. But I see him. The next time I see him, I'm on crutches at Jets camp at Hofstra. And now this is probably a year later. And I think Wally and the Keeg are gone. I'm with Stephen A. Me and Stephen are out at Hofstra. And I hadn't seen Herm since. I've been going to Jet games, but I'm just in the stands. I'm going as a fan. I'm not going in the locker room. I want to hang out and tailgate, right? So the Jets PR guy comes up. He goes, hey, Herm wants to come up with you guys. This is a true story. He wants to come on with you guys, but he wants to talk to you before he goes on. I go, absolutely. 100%. So I'm on crutches. I just ruptured the Achilles like 3 weeks before that. So it's screaming still. I hop over to him. Hey, coach, shake his hand. Now we had never been in the same room at that point. He goes, wow. He goes, you're an athlete. He goes, you played something, right? I go, yeah. I played a little baseball in college. Yeah. That felt good when he said that. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, he's not, at least I know in his mind, he's not thinking that he's looking at some schlep, right? I may have sounded like an asshole that day on the air, but I wasn't coming across as some, 75-pound weakling or 400-pound slob. I'm like, all right, at least the coach of the Jets thinks I was an athlete, right? Loosely translated. So I said to him, he goes like this. He goes, listen, he goes, do you think that we don't want to win? And like, he launched into one of the first truly meaningful conversations that I had with a head coach of a New York team. I've had some since with Isaiah back in the day, and obviously Aaron Boone. But he was awesome, man. And he even said, no, I shouldn't say this, but he did say this, but I'm going to say it. He goes, and we all love the guy, but we all know how he is. He goes, don't morph into Joe. He goes, don't let everything be negative. He goes, don't you think we're trying to win? I go, I know you're trying to win. I know you are. I said, but coach, I got a job. They're very respectful. I mean, why wouldn't I be? He was gentleman, and I'm certainly predisposed to being a gentleman, but I got questions to ask, and he was being an ass, and so I was being an ass, so got off the rails when we had him on the air that day. But in face-to-face, it was tremendous, and I learned a lesson that day. And not that it radically changed my style, but I did learn a lesson in interviewing, like, all right, you got to make like, if somebody comes on the show and their guard is up right away, they're never going to be relaxed enough to have an honest, transparent conversation. And that's when you get the good stuff. So it's kind of the psychology of interviewing people. You know what I mean? And that really came from from Herm Edwards. I learned that. But man, oh man, when he says he never thought I was going to say, yeah. All right, well, why don't you come down to Hofstra? You know all the answers, man. All right, I hear you on the radio. Or you guys think you know what you're talking. Come on down. Very animated. Herm with that great theatrical, fiery presentation. There is no way in hell he thought I was going to be like, when can I come? I'm there. So that was something I'll never forget. Love Herm Edwards. I absolutely love him. All right, let me wrap it up. I got to wrap. What time we got? 11:45, a little longer than usual, but that is okay. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the content. Hey, follow along on Twitter, obviously, Instagram, like it, subscribe. What was the term? Hype? What was that? Somebody was hyping. Somebody sent the message, yo, I just hyped your video. I'm like, I don't know what that means. I mean, does that mean that you were in the bar or talking to your buddies and say, yo, BT's got a great YouTube show, you got to check? Like, is that the hype that you mean? Or is there actually a word hype, like and subscribe and hype? And I guess there is. So if you're inclined to hype the video, go out there and hype the video. Obviously like it, obviously subscribe to it. I can tell you guys are absolutely loving. You guys are loving that Herm story. I got a lot of stories, man. I got a couple of stuff. I'm not going to air them all. I got to save them. But trust me, you're getting content on this show. I got stories from Isaiah Thomas about Stephon Marbury. One time in a gym in Toronto. I mean, I got some good ones for you when I was traveling with the Knicks a little bit. So when the situation's right, I will tap into a story and I will tell the story, something I really enjoy doing, something I hope I'm okay doing. My dad's a good storyteller, and you heard my dad on the fan, my last show. Although, like me, he goes on and on as well. I'm like, Dad, are you going to really run down the whole resume on the air here? I'm running out of time, man. They're kicking me out in 6 minutes here. Let's go. All right, guys. Hopefully we get some Tucker news. Hopefully we get some resolution on Bellinger. Obviously, the Harbaugh stuff front and center for the G-men and all the other stuff that is going on. Good job by the Johnnies last night. We'll get back on the Knicks train coming up here, see what they have and all that stuff. So like, subscribe, hype, whatever you want to do. Spread the word. Get it out there. BT Unleashed. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and I will catch you tomorrow. Unless something breaks, I will catch you guys live tomorrow at 10 right here on Unleashed. I'll see you.